Hello, Honorable Gerald Kosinski. Very nice to
Good
meet
morning.
you.
And I'm sorry I have to correct you. It's Gerard.
Gerard,
I'm named
thank
after
you.
St. Gerard Magella, the patron saint of mothers and the unjustly accused.
And so I guess it was predestined that you'd be a judge.
Yes, and don't worry about that because AOPC even got it wrong.
Oh no.
Yes.
Sorry about
I
that.
had problems with my first check.
But
So-
I'm glad you got that straightened away, and I hope it cleared.
And I do prefer Jerry, and that's how I've been known through the years.
Oh, thank you, thank you. So I feel strange calling you Jerry in this type of interview.
Well, you
so
can call me Your Honor. Again,
Thank
it's
you, Your
a
Honor.
professional setting, so I don't mind that at all, Lisa.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Where did you grow up? Are you a native Philadelphian?
I'm a native Philadelphian. I grew up in North Philadelphia, around 5th and Diamond, 2000 block of North Lawrence Street. Born in 1954, lived there to 1959. My mother grew up in North Philadelphia, and we moved to Bridesburg, to St. John Cantius Parish, where I went to grade school, taught by the Holy Family of Nazareth nuns, and then went on to North Catholic High, where I graduated in '72 under the tutelage of the Oblates of St. Francis de Sales. So in '72, I had a decision to make. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to Penn State, but I took a very, very strange major for somebody who was on the future track to be an attorney. I was a meteorology major.
Really? What
Yes.
drew you to meteorology?
It's always been a very interesting hobby of mine, which I still practice to the day. I was somewhat of the informal weatherman for the courts. And I went to Penn State, did very well with it. I went Penn State Ogon's Penn State main campus. But the job prospects for a meteorology major in 1972 were not good at all. So I moved over to political science and graduated Penn State in '76. In '76, I had an opportunity to work for the state senate. So I went to Dickinson Law School in Carlisle. Went there, and the state senate cut my job. Didn't start it yet. They cut the job, so I returned to Philadelphia. In 1977, applied and was accepted to Temple Evening Division, and started working for the grand total of $6,600 a year for the court bail program, pretrial services, ROR, of the Unified Court System. And 198 take them every 2 weeks. And went to Temple for 4 years. Had a wonderful evening education at Temple. Was unanimously elected my class valedictorian, and opened a law practice in Philadelphia in the Bridesburg section with Patricia Dugan, Tish Dugan, who was one of the first female attorneys to do criminal law in Philadelphia, and later morphed into family elder law in the States. Then I decided to take a very strange career path. There was an opening for state representative. Bob Borski decided to run for Congress. I ran for state rep. Had a tough primary against Joe Glacken, who later became one of our head honchos in probation and still a very good friend. And I served in the legislature for 10 years.
Now, was that was that something that you imagined when you were in college?
Yes,
You
definitely.
saw yourself taking
I
this
always
path?
saw myself being a elected official. The opportunity came up, I ran, and was successful. A very tough primary, won by 258 votes, I believe, and served for 10 years, and had a wonderful 10 years in Harrisburg. Absolutely fantastic. I was the subcommittee chair on courts of judiciary. Did a number of wonderful legislative developments. Pennsylvania OSHA, which was knocked down. A number of labor relation with now Judge Mark Cohen, who was chairman of my committee. I was on the Education Committee, Judiciary Committee, Finance for a little while. So I thoroughly enjoyed my 10 years, especially the constituent service. I find that never ends. You always wind up doing constituent service in one way or another, even today. So did my 10 years. When reapportionment came, decided to step down and went into lobbying with a gentleman named John Milliron for 2 years. That didn't work out so much. I didn't want to keep traveling and keep going to Harrisburg. So went back to the private practice. And then in 1995, Sheriff John Green asked me to be undersheriff. And I replaced Judge Matt Carafiello, who went to the bench and served there for 8 years. In 2003, Judge Morton Crace of Municipal Court decided he wasn't going to run for retention, and I took over his slot and was elected in 2003 and became a municipal court judge in 2004.
Okay.
And I served till 2022 when I retired.
That's a really impressive history.
Well, apart from that, I also did some radio work. I was a fill-in host on WWDB for a while. I consider that wonderful. I did political analysis at WWDB, and also for the BBC regional radio stations in 1992 for the presidential election.
Oh, wow.
And I've appeared occasionally in media and C-SPAN and a few other things, but stopped that entirely when I became a judge.
Okay. When you were in law school, did you have a 20-year plan?
No.
Did you? Okay.
No, I had a next day plan.
Okay.
Because you went to law school at night, and it was funny. A number of my colleagues at pretrial services, they saw me doing nothing. I never studied. And I figured, law school can't be that tough. So they all apply to Temple, most of them get in, and they can't, they're just, how did you do this? We never saw you studying. I said, it was easy, I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but they made it through and they became attorneys, and most of them are now at the end of their careers, and I still maintain contact with several of them.
Were there any teachers in your? You said
Oh,
you went
definitely.
to St. John.
St. John Canchas.
St. John Canchas.
And I'm going to start at high school.
Okay.
Father John Hurley, my debate coach. He was a Model UN debate coach. He was not only a teacher, coach, and he was a mentor. And he had us go to Harvard University and challenged us. And believe it or else, as a junior, I was the first individual award for a junior in the Security Council there. And I also repeated again as a senior. We did very well nationally, but didn't win a title until 1974. I was gone for 2 years, and this last May, the team, the 74 team, had a reunion, and they invited me. Father Hurley is deceased, may he rest in peace, but they considered me his successor, and it was really nice to see them and hear them. I used to help them with their debate. I came back when I was in college, and it was very nice to see them again and hear some good words. In law school, I had the Mount Rushmore of teachers: Marina Angel, Charlie Rogovan, Pat Schweigert, and Peter Leocoris.
Wow.
And they were helpful to me, not just in my law career, but also my legislative career. I would see each of them when they appeared in Harrisburg. Charlie Rogovan was with the Pennsylvania Crime Commission. Marina Angel was always a good sounding board when I needed advice. Pat Schweigert and Peter Leocoris came up for funding concerns. And it was always nice to see a former teacher show up in your office and begging for money. So,
The teacher becomes the student.
That's
And-
right. And we always had a good laugh about that.
Yeah.
But again, very good mentors and very good people.
And have you had the opportunity to mentor law students?
Yes. In fact, just last Thursday, I had a law student, Pavel Wojcik, from Wrocław, Poland. Judge Lazarus called me up one day and said, "Jerry, I have this Polish law student. He's going to Temple for his LLM." And perfect, match made in heaven. So Pavel and I got together. My wife and I would take him out to dinner a couple times a month. Any questions he had, we would talk with him. And he got his degree. He's licensed, I believe, in New York and New Jersey. And last Thursday, he was back on business and came to Philadelphia and took my wife and I out to breakfast. And he only wanted one thing. Most people that come to America, they want steaks. He wanted American pancakes. So we had a great reunion, and we stay in contact.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. You served on the bench until 2022?
Correct.
What was it like? I mean, did you notice any big changes in the way you had to preside over cases in the last several years with COVID?
Well,
or
Again, with COVID, they kept me at home.
okay,
And what I did was I did e-court. And every day there would be filings, there'd be bail petitions, lifting detainers, omnibus motions, miscellaneous motions. And also the late Judge Gerard and I felt that since the emergency judges were being called in frequently after COVID, we decided to do the midnight shift on bail appeals from the roundhouse, or it's no longer the roundhouse, but from preliminary arraignments, so that the judges wouldn't be get the alarm or the phone call at 4 in the morning. So we did that, and I enjoyed that, even though I didn't come in. I was hampered through a lot of my later years with kidney stone problems and very, very bad hip pain. And I had that corrected in February of this year. And I also lost about 90 pounds since I left the bench.
Okay.
So thank goodness, and things are going well. And I only have, knock wood, first world problems as far as health and other things.
good.
But
That's good to hear.
the one thing I have to mention is I believe we were run tighter when I first came on the bench. And it's just that society has changed. The the practice of law has changed. And I noticed things became a bit looser.
Okay.
And I had 3 wonderful president judges, Judge Presenza, Judge Nyfield, and Judge Dugan, who led the way. But I could see attorneys were not as prepared in school toward my later years as they were prepared in the beginning. More of the old school attorneys would die off, and new people would be replaced. Things occasionally became contentious in the courtroom, and I will admit that was partly my fault on occasion. And when that would happen, I would just get up, leave for about 5 minutes, and maybe have a hard pretzel and then come back and begin proceedings again. But I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed the hustle and bustle of municipal court and the fact that you always had to pay attention.
Yes.
Much unlike my other careers in the legislature where everything's flying around and things are going on. But in court, you had to concentrate. The difference is you never had phone calls as a judge.
Right.
You never had to do anything except focus on what we were doing. And in municipal court, of course, you didn't have the opinions to write unless you were a traffic court and sitting as a CP judge, and you'd winding up doing the opinions anyway to Superior Court. I also have to say I had a wonderful staff as a municipal court judge. Not enough credit goes to our court officers, our court clerks, and for a little while, for 4 years, I had a regular courtroom in 703. Jackie Lester, my court clerk, taught me more about the courts than anybody else. Lance Goldstein, my court crier, just filled me in on everything that I needed to know. I had Rich Keene, my police liaison, Mike Iconelli, the late Peggy Dixon, his court officers, John Hamilton, my sheriff, and we were one big happy family. I also had some wonderful tip staffs. Wally Leszewski, may he rest in peace. Frank Bernard, who later became a magisterial justice as a bail court, or a bail judge, and Allison Frisato, who was my last tip staff, fantastic. My 3 secretaries, Joan Foster, Elspeth Green Kosinski, my wife, and Joan Marin. And they made it so easy for me and made me look so good. So I always had to thank them. And I also think that we have Alice, who's been over 20 years, Lance over 20 years, Jackie over 20 years. I just wish a court administration and administrative governing board would find a way to get some extra pay into these senior workers who have a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge, yet they're not appreciated for it. Day in and day out, they put in their hours, and they should get more pay. Definitely should get more pay for their institutional knowledge.
I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that you're still championing them.
Well, I would bang the drum loudly as much as I can, not just to make the lot of the court employees who I considered co-workers better, but also judges. I was very proud in 2005 to get a call from Chief Justice Cappy to come up to Harrisburg to lobby for the pay raise.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a legislator, I voted for 2 pay raises for myself as a legislator, but 3 for the judges.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left in 1992, one of my last acts was for a temporary COLA for the judges. It would be effective 1994 to 2000. And fortunately, in 1995, now Common Pleas Judge, former legislator, Kathy Durham from Delaware County, made that COLA permanent. Now, with the 2005 pay raise plus the COLA, we just satisfied all the wants of a judge. I would get calls as a legislator every year. Can you give us a pay raise? Can you give us a COLA? Now judges don't have to do that. The issue was settled in 2005, and they are among the best paid judges in the United States, as I point out, more than almost every governor in the United States, and definitely more than a rank and file member of the U.S. House and Senate. Mm-hmm. And also judicial benefits. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest problems I had as a judge is I thought the world would end and Western civilization would end if I didn't show up for work. Mm. If I had to do it all again, I would have been more careful taking care of me.
I was just about to ask you what advice you would give your younger self, and that's...
Well, that would be extremely good advice. Plus, once I retired, there's no more gratuitous eating. It's no more Alice get a coffee, yeah. Joanne get a donut. Yeah. I don't have the candy drawer anymore. Right. I don't have that Great Reading terminal nearby to, oh, you're going out. Why don't you get some donuts, please? Here. And
is that because you found the work of being a judge, which can be stressful? I mean, was that
again
a stress response?
The stressful thing was coming in and everybody wanting to get out. The DA saying, we have a few people who need to get out. Then I'd have the defense, we have a few people who need to get out. We have this problem, we have that problem. Mm-hmm. And you're juggling everybody's ball, except you don't take care of yourself. I'm a diabetic, and a lot of times I let my sugar run wild. Oh. And I shouldn't have let my sugar run wild. I should have just, time out, I'm going in the back. Right. But if you go in the back, you'll lose the courtroom. Mm-hmm. Even if I would say, I'm going to see a man about a horse, I'll be back in 2 minutes and 51 seconds. I'd come back, everybody's gone. So, but again, things that you work on, and you live with it. I think it's the greatest job in the world. And I know some of my colleagues, most of my colleagues, all my colleagues, realize that it's the greatest job in the world. When I try to explain to other judges what I do for a living and how much I got paid, statewide they'd go, you do what? Where? And what? And I consider ourselves the workhorse of the Philadelphia courts and the Pennsylvania courts. Half the disposed cases come through Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I used to do 506, the blood court, a DUI blood court. And my wife and I are driving in Delaware, heading down to going to a farmer's market or something in Delaware, in Wilmington. Mm-hmm. There have been 500 arrests so far this year in Delaware for DUI. I looked at him and said, I've disposed of over 500 cases in courtroom 506 in
Right.
Philadelphia.
Right.
So it's a high volume, but I also had a lot of satisfaction out of it. Out of that courtroom came my biggest legal satisfaction, my Commonwealth versus Myers, implied consent. And here it was, just a regular day in court. And once I heard the defense argument, I knew that this is going to be a Supreme Court case.
Can you talk a little bit about
Well,
the circumstances of that
Again,
case?
it was a typical motion to suppress, and the defendant Myers was in the hospital for a blood draw, and it was done without consent. And in this particular case, they said he could not consent, or I said they could not consent because of the circumstances of his injury. He was out of it, if you want to use a non-legal term.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember the facts of the case, I said that the blood draw was invalid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it goes to common pleas, I'm upheld. Then it goes to Superior Court, I'm upheld. It goes to the state Supreme Court, where not only is it upheld, but 6 out of the 7 judges write an opinion.
Oh, wow.
All because of this not little case, but all because of this case in a room where I didn't write an opinion. I had to do everything orally
Mm-hmm.
and had to get my facts, conclusions, law, and state it out there in about 5 minutes for the higher courts to consider. And I consider that my crowning achievement.
That's fantastic.
But the other crowning achievement is that I enjoyed working with everybody who I sat down with, my coworkers, my judges. Every judge I served with taught me something. And that's amazing. You just have to open your mind and open your eyes and listen to what they're saying. And I had Judge Kirkland, who I knew before she was a judge, helped me immensely. Judge Blassie, Judge Merriweather, and especially Judge Linda Anderson, who left us way, way, way too soon. They were all judges that I look up to, that I had to I respect very highly, and who gave me some wonderful advice. The best advice, though, came from 2 judges.
Can you name them?
President Judge Presenza.
Okay.
I sat down with him after I got elected. He says, Jerry, 3 things. Show up on time. Control the courtroom. Make a decision. And I carried those into court. Then, Joe Del Sol, who was a legislator before me, and then was elected to Superior Court. He later became president judge of Superior Court. And he retired and gave a presentation to the judges at our annual state trial judges in Hershey. And the first thing he said was, a judge is a job description. It is not a lifestyle description.
Mm-hmm.
If I knew now what I knew then, I would have left the bench at 65.
Hmm. And why do you think he said that?
Why? Well, he wasn't going to lose any money.
Yeah.
Okay. Because of I was blessed to have the current, or my pension system,
Mm-hmm.
which unfortunately the new judges do not have. And that's something that grates my cheese, because that is an inequality. They've tried to address in the courts. Then Commonwealth Court did not see their way. And hopefully the argument in front of the Supreme Court will help them get what I have. It allowed him options to leave at 65 and to enjoy life. We've had too many people recently. We had Judge Anderson die young. We had Judge Jimenez not be able to take advantage of his later days, and Judge Gerard. And Judge Gerard and I go back a long, long, long way. We were both ward leaders. I was a ward leader for 17 years when I was a state representative and before I became a judge. And could tell you a ton of political stories, but I'm sure the statute of limitations have gone by. So, but again, I enjoyed being a ward leader. I still do constituent service. You know, people come to me and say, where do you go for this? Where do you go for that? Can you send me a link on this? And the one thing I love to do is educate veterans on their benefits. I am not a veteran, but I salute their service and make sure that they take advantage of everything that they worked for. It's just like any other job benefit. Take advantage of it. You've earned it. It's not being given to you gratis.
So are you, I know that you're still doing constituent services because that's part of who you are. Is there something that you, in addition to enjoying life now, is there something that you do regularly in your community that you love?
I enjoy the 3 R's: reading, writing, and rest. So I still communicate with my colleagues by text. I send them personal financial information. I send them political stories. I send them sports stories. I'll send them maybe an oddball story. And of course, every day when my Twitter feed, X feed I should say, comes from Commonwealth Superior Supreme Court, that goes out. I enjoy reading. I read all on my phone. I don't have books anymore.
Really?
And my wife always complained about dirty fingers. So I don't read a newspaper, only online, and I only read books online. And I discovered through the Internet Archive, the Open Library app, that has tons of out-of-print books. Unfortunately, they've had to withdraw about 500,000 because of a copyright battle, and they're trying to get those restored. But I think I have 500 yet to go.
What's your favorite genre?
Oh, I love history, and history of the world between 1930 and 1970. And World War II, I like personal narratives. I like to read about various countries. I like to read about the communist countries and how the countries suffered and fared under communism. I read a lot of books about Britain because my wife is British, and I just enjoy reading British history, especially those times. I do political analysis. I came in second in the city, tied for second, with 19 points for the mayoral primary in 2023. So I'm a bit proud about that. I also did a very good analysis of the past British parliamentary election, and I'm working on one for the presidential. So in 2022, or in 2020, Judge Gerard at 8 in the morning sends me a note. What's going on? And I said to him, Biden's won Pennsylvania, Biden's won Arizona, Biden's won Nevada, Biden's won Georgia. And I gave him all the numbers. And he said, now we can rest at ease. And every one of those turned out on target.
So you're going to be a busy man in the next several
Oh,
months.
I love doing it. I absolutely love. And I'm trying to think of our 2021. Was it Lori Dumas who was running for?
Yes.
Yeah. And remember how they said she lost? And everybody said she lost. Well, one of my colleagues texted me, and I'm at the breakfast with my wife. And I said, I don't think so, but let me look at the numbers. So we wound up at BJ's, and my wife goes in the shop, and I stay in the car because my hip's killing me. So I look at the numbers, and I go, she's going to win. Judge Dumas is going to win. I'm not going to tell her that. I said, Judge Dumas is going to win. Here's how many votes are out. They're mostly write-in votes. Here's how they're breaking. I'm not going to tell her. Then as we come in, it's when are you going to tell her? When are you going to tell
Yeah.
her? Well, they finally did when the numbers broke the thing. But that's the type of analysis I do. And I enjoy it. I love playing with numbers. I love playing with judges ask me about their pension. And now it's easy. They just go online and they go to the pension site and it figures for them. But they come to me and they go, well, what if and I said, listen, I'm only going to give you information. I'm not going to give you advice. But here's how the numbers split down. And don't rely on these numbers. Because remember, these are just general off the top of my head and so on and so on. But I thoroughly enjoy doing that. And I'm busier now than I've ever been.
See, this is news, because what you've just said is that you are a judge who was once obviously a lawyer who can do math.
Oh, I always knew
like-
a third. And I knew those percentages for the estate, what the attorney gets for the estate.
Right.
Definitely. So,
Yes.
but I remember doing in law school, we did a talent show. And I did a skit. And I called myself the big firm. And one of the lines, to the tune of That's Amore, one of the lines was, just remember my fee, one for you, two for me, at the big firm. So,
That's great.
but attorneys have to count. And remember, my days as a meteorology major, I did better as a meteorology student than I did my first 2 semesters or trimesters at Penn State in liberal arts.
Yeah. Wow.
And I still play with the physics and the algebra and everything else. But in my courtroom, somebody would say, oh, you're into math. I said, geometry is my favorite subject. Do you know why? I like pie. So I was always with the dad jokes off the
Yes.
bench. And
Yeah.
I would torture some poor DA. They would come in with a retail theft case. And I would say, wrong jurisdiction. This belongs in federal court. They would look up and down and look up and down. Judge, I can't figure this out. I said, very simply, the complaint is Old Navy. So, and then a few years. One of the interesting one was, I had an attorney came in and he had a banana in his hand, and I just think it was just
That's a tort waiting to happen.
Well, I said, no bananas in municipal court. You must take it to the Court of Appeals. Things like that.
That's great.
And
That's great.
I would drive every one of my tip staffs would just, not again, not again. So,
Well, it's
but-
a high pressure situation for the attorneys, for the defendants in your courtroom. It's good that you were able to break the tension.
You also use math
Yeah.
to find out the credibility of a witness, an officer. I was stopped at a light, car came by, I estimated at 50 miles an hour, and I stopped them 2.5 blocks later. So I would figure it out. I said, it would take approximately, with a block being 250 feet in Philadelphia, it would take you approximately 7 blocks to stop. It happened, this case happened in my neighborhood. Excuse me, so I was very familiar with the streets involved. So I find the witness not credible. Motion to suppress granted.
See, this is one of those instances where you
Yeah.
do need math in the law.
Or meteorology.
Yes.
Your Honor, the defendant is saying that it was snowing and the roads were icy. It was 38 degrees and it couldn't snow. Oh, counsel, you are incorrect. The temperature does not control if it snows or not. It's the dew point, and you can have snow at 38 degrees. So that is not a good argument in this courtroom.
Wow. Well, Judge Kosinski, you've taught me about, it was great to hear about your career. I've learned a lot about meteorology and math, in addition to hearing about your wonderful careers.
And the other thing is, I would always talk about food in the courtroom and talk about great restaurants, and I'd drive people nuts. They would get hungry.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, thank you very much,
You're
Judge
welcome.
Kosinski. This has been a wonderful interview, and I thank you
Lisa,
for doing
thank
it.
you very much for having me here today.
Absolutely. you.